Sudan's wartime crisis. Starting with our top story at this hour, tensions between India and Pakistan have heightened after the deadly terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir's Pahalgam, which left 26 people dead. The United Nations Security Council held a closed-door meeting yesterday with envoys calling for de-escalation between the two countries. This closed-door meeting was convened at Pakistan's request and concluded without any statement, resolution or an official outcome. Ahead of this closed-door meet, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres urged both countries to avoid any military confrontation, warning that a war could easily spin out of control. He also offered the UN support for peace efforts and said targeting civilians must never go unpunished. Let's listen in to what Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary-General, had to say.
It is also essential, especially at this critical hour, to avoid a military confrontation that could easily spin out of control. Now is the time for maximum restraint and stepping back from the brink. That has been my message in my ongoing outreach with both countries. Make no mistake, a military solution is no solution.
Well, in a significant development, New Delhi is shifting gears, not just militarily, but also in terms of civilian preparedness. The Ministry of Home Affairs has ordered full-scale nationwide mock drills scheduled for May 7th to simulate hostile attack scenarios. These will involve civil defense authorities, students, medical staff and security forces across 244 districts. On ground, ceasefire violations have now continued for the 12th straight day, with Pakistani troops firing across the line of control in several sectors. The Indian Army is said to have responded proportionately to this provocation. Meanwhile, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi met National Security Advisor Ajit Doval twice in the past 48 hours as India intensifies its security posture following the terror attack. These back-to-back consultations come as India is assessing its response to the dastardly terror attack. In a related development, US House Speaker Mike Johnson also has expressed strong support for India's first fight against terrorism. All right, joining us on the program to talk more about this is Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, former diplomat. Ambassador Dayal, appreciate you taking out the time and speaking to us. Well, sir, India is obviously preparing for any eventual outcome of the aggression that, we have shown over the past few days. These aggressions have been civil as well as diplomatic as well as kinetic in nature. But the fact of the matter is, sir, that the world believes that this region is not ready for war, at least when it comes to Pakistan. It may be posturing at this point in time. It really does not have the wherewithal, the funds, or the alacrity to get into a war, a conventional one at that, with India.
Well, first of all, Vineet, thanks for having me on your show. Yes, you're right. Pakistan does not have the wherewithal to wage a long drawn-out serious war with India. Its economy is in shambles, and there are many analysts who feel that it doesn't have the resources to be able to sustain a long drawn-out conflict. But, and this is a fundamental but, Pakistan's hand in the terrorist attack in Pahalgam is beyond doubt. And that is why Prime Minister Modi had said that those behind this heinous act will be brought to justice. And he also said, our resolve to fight terrorism is unshakable and it is going to become even stronger. So this shows that India is prepared to take the necessary steps to counter Pakistan's terrorism. Now, there is no doubt that in a situation like this, all options are on the table. India has already exercised some options. For example, the decision to hold the Indus Waters Treaty in abeyance, or the decision to scale down the Pakistan High Commission, several other economic decisions which could impact Pakistan adversely. So while these have been taken, there are many, many other options which remain on the table. Analysts are always talking about the kinetic option. It is up to the government to decide whether it wants to use that kinetic option or not. But there is, of course, serious concern globally about the fact that there is a possibility of an outbreak of war between India and Pakistan. Now, let me mention, the mock drills that we have been organizing or planning to organize in the next few days are only to meet a situation which warrants increased preparedness in case of a Pakistani terror attack or another scaled up attack in forms of bombings or sending missiles across, which they've been talking about. So, being prepared for any eventuality is the need of the hour, and that is what government is doing. Let me also mention that you referred in your introductory comments to the UN Secretary General referring to the danger of an outbreak of war between India and Pakistan. But let me also mention that he was very categorical in condemning the terrorist attack in Pahalgam. In fact, he used very strong words to condemn it, and that in fact indicated the sort of thinking which is prevailing in the United Nations. The meeting of the Security Council, the closed door meeting, which was in the form of consultations, took place at Pakistan's request. But you know, there was no statement made at the end of the meeting. So it showed that Pakistan's objective was defeated. Pakistan wanted the UN Security Council to come out with a statement which would perhaps be against India, but the UN Security Council has done nothing like that. So, in that context, as some analysts have pointed out, Pakistan's attempt to grandstand in this situation has failed. Let me also mention that there are various other options which India could exercise. I mentioned the fact that Pakistan's economy is in shambles. But apart from that, Pakistan's internal situation is also in very poor shape. There are insurgencies going on in Balochistan and also in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. The Baloch Liberation Army and some other militant outfits in Balochistan are fighting against the Pakistan army. And at the same time, the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan is also engaged in warfare against the Pakistan army. So the resources of the Pakistan army are already very stretched. There have been a number of militant attacks on the personnel of the Pakistan army. So in this situation, for it to find itself deploying forces at its eastern border, that is the border with India, is something that is going to be very painful for Pakistan. So there are a number of options which are on the table. And as I said, the government of India will decide what options it wants to exercise. If it wants to use the kinetic option, then it will do so. But it will decide very clearly on the basis of the pros and cons what actions are viable and what actions it can take.
So there seems to be, you know, a heightened level of posturing that is taking place in Pakistan as well. You know, the army is quiet at this point in time. It's only the puppet government in Pakistan that is becoming extremely jingoistic, extremely aggressive, and extremely wild, for the lack of a better word, against India. Do you think that this is a bluff that India needs to call?
Vineet, I'm not so sure whether it is correct to say that the Pakistan army is quiet. Look, just a few days before this Pahalgam attack, the army chief of Pakistan, General Asim Munir, had issued a very provocative statement. He had said things which certainly incited passions and which are being blamed to a great extent for the terror attack in Pahalgam. Now, it is also to be noted that the Pakistan army is indulging in cross-border firing. Can that be called a quiet sort of step? That is certainly not being quiet. The Pakistan army is indulging in highly provocative acts after the very provocative statement from General Asim Munir, and India would be fully entitled to retaliate in the manner it chooses.
Sir, appreciate you taking out the time and speaking with us. Thank you so much, sir. All right, breaking news coming in. Chinese President Xi Jinping is set to